Thank you everyone for joining us at the second McGill Desautels Talks. We're very lucky to be joined by Danny Di Perna, who's an alum, graduated in '97, has gone on to work at PwC, Air Canada, Alstom, Bombardier, the list goes on. But maybe let's just start with a little bit of an easy question, Danny. Tell us a little bit about yourself from when you were a McGill student and doing your own MBA here.
Okay, great. Liela. Look, I grew up in Montreal. It's a fabulous city. I went to school at Concordia for my engineering degree. And then after starting work at Pratt & Whitney, as you mentioned, decided it was probably a good idea to do the GMAT, which was the first hurdle that we needed to figure out. And then was fortunate enough to be accepted into the McGill MBA program. It was a fabulous learning experience. I love the McGill MBA program. At the time, it was McGill MBA. Now I know it's Desautels. So I think it was great. And, it makes you a little bit more inquisitive. The program opens up international business and international economics. And there are some very cool professors and very cool projects that you work with other students and kids. We weren't kids at the time, but we still are. But I would say that it was great. It was a great complement to the engineering degree. And then you're just, in your nascent world, you begin with these two pieces of paper. And I talk about that later. But that's kind of the summer. It was fun, great experience. It's a beautiful, campus location right in the heart of a great city. So that's my first answer to you.
Are there any classes that you remember that stand out to you while you were doing that?
Well, a few, like organizational behavior. I don't know if that's still a course.
Still a thing,
OB.
yes.
I'm not sure it was my favorite of them all, but first of all, I thought most of the curriculum, especially the international economics and when we learned about the Porter Five Forces and when we learned about Adam Smith and this tariff thing is alive and well right now, right? About, comparative advantages versus competitive advantage. Where should you grow bananas? Probably Montreal is probably not a great place to grow bananas. It's probably good to export snow. So, all of that was very interesting. But I have to admit, although at first I was laughing about it, thinking that organizational behavior, what are you going to teach me about behavior? First of all, I got a straight A's in high school and then E for behavior all the time. That's kind of my modus of operandi. So what could this program teach me on OB? But to be honest, in a big corporate world, when you're trying to figure your way out and you start to see the politics and the dynamics and you see what they were teaching in the curriculum on OB, it's actually very applicable. In fact, I can remember clearly who was the model, the evil model of leadership came to mind in my workplace when I was reading through some of the do's and don'ts and traps from organizational dynamics and leadership style and stuff. And then, a couple of the course made me think more and more about that is absolutely the wrong way to motivate and inspire people. So that, absolutely not. But you see it in the corridors and the offices and even a great company like Pratt & Whitney, from time to time, you get some of this bullshit politics that go on. So it just, I thought it was a good way to reflect. And I was able to very much use, without names, what's going on in that experience into the papers that were finally submitted for grade, for score. So anyway, that's one example.
And so that led you to Pratt & Whitney, it led you to Bombardier. How have you carved out your career path since doing your MBA, and what kind of leads you to making the choice to take on a role or not?
Yeah, it's good. Good question. So I was fortunate in 1989, May the 8th. Don't start calculating age or anything like that. I'm very, very young. But I would say to you that in 1989, I was fortunate enough, after being rejected 3 times, 3 letters from HR saying, we'll keep you on record. Thank you very much for your interest. What the fuck? Yeah. Then the next one comes in. Then the next one comes in. So then I had it, and I called out my old professor, Dr. Hani Mustafa, world-renowned, fabulous guy. He was the manager of aerodynamics at Pratt. And I said, you gave me an A in gas turbine theory, and now you don't even want to hire me. What the heck? And so anyway, all this to say 21 of us graduated engineers out of Concordia that year, started. Fabulous class, fabulous, smart, good people. So we began that journey. It was only then, so I started at Pratt, then I decided to take the MBA starting in 92 or 93. So I kind of, and I wanted to do it in parallel. I didn't want to go back for the 1 year. Now, your direct question about maybe career profiling a little bit. Okay, and there's many paths to do whatever you like to do, which we'll get into later maybe. But you know, a lot of folks come out with their little certificate, and the ones that go to MIT or Harvard or Oxford, and they come out with the diploma, and when you interview with them, they think, okay, but that's it. I'm here. I've got the job. In a year, I'm going to be your boss, and I'm going to be the CEO, and check your attitude at the door. I mean, so the piece of paper is a necessary requirement because it reflects the education and what you've learned, and that you went through a curriculum of some form of thought-provoking education, let's call it that. But it doesn't give you at all anywhere near the necessary real life street smarts skills to do and to aspire and to do whatever you want to do. But it's a very good foundation. So I am very pro the education system. Of course, many of the different schools have different ways. Some charge this much money, some don't. Some are prestigious, some you don't hear of too much. But at the end of the day, it's what you put into the education. It's what you pull out of it. Because most of the theories in the textbooks, especially in physics and sciences, the formulas are the same. The textbooks are the same. It's what you put in, and the environment. And I think McGill and even my other alma mater, has a great environment for continuous learning and education. So now the career step. You thought I was forgetting that. I got it. So no, I got it. But so now you come out and you figure, okay, I got some education, and I'll be honest with you, the MBA, at the time it was kind of nice. Today I think it's becoming, people are treating it more as a commodity. Let me say that word. I was thinking of a dime a dozen but I don't like that. I think it's becoming more and more a commodity, which I would say is entry level. With a few degrees, you're able to play the game. It's your ticket to enter. Then it's what you bring to the party. It's your attitude. It's your ability to learn. It's your riskiness to raise your hand when there's an international opportunity, which is why I'm going to answer you that way. For me, very early on, I realized that you start at the bottom of the totem pole. No matter how smart you think or how big your diploma is, you start at the bottom of the totem pole. And so how do you make a difference? How do you expand your learning? You raise your hand. And so for me, that was it. So there was an opportunity to go to Florida, raise my hand, to work in the U.S. military engine business. As a Canadian at the time, I'm both now, but back then it was, I had to be escorted to the bathroom. I had to be escorted everywhere. I mean, it was like a little bit something. You ready, Danny? I'm coming. I'm almost ready. Yeah. So that was a very cool experience, but you get to meet a whole other milieu of people. Then there was an opportunity to go to Europe and do helicopter flight testing, for which I almost died in a helicopter, 7 seconds more, and I would have died in that helicopter. You raise your hand, we're gone. Bring the kids, do whatever you have to do, off to Munich, off to Milan. Great experience. In front of the customer, in the firing line, customers pissed off, they're yelling at you. I remember in Italian, I'm fluent in Italian. I wasn't so good then, but I'm fantastic now. And they're yelling at you. You're on the phone back yelling at everybody over there because you're in the front line. That's when you learn. And by the way, it matters because the reason they're upset is because they're flying those helicopters. And so then the Commandant General took me into a Bell 412, twin Pratt engine in northern Italy in the Guardia di Finanza helicopter. And he said, your engine is not working so good. When I kick the pedals, I don't have the same power, torque. And we were saying, yeah, it's okay. We're going to fix it. You're going to fix it. You're going to fix it. Okay, you come with me for the flight. Holy, that really changed the game. So I got into this Bell helicopter. It was a Bell Augusta helicopter. That's the Italian. He was smoking a cigarette. He opened the window because helicopters don't fly more than 4,000 feet. He's smoking, typical Italian, general from the military. We had a good rapport. I'm sitting there and I'm soiling my armor. I've lived my whole life in aerospace except for the game I play in trains now. And I was like, I'm afraid to fly. And this guy is smoking away. And then he does this maneuver, flips over, comes across, and then he's forcing to show me how erratic the engine response was, because it was a twin gearbox, twin engine, single gearbox, and he was trying to show me how it's not really synchronizing. And I was the test engineer, software guy. Anyway, all this to say, we have digressed on your question, my dear, but I don't care. It's fun. And so
It's perfect.
But that was for me, like when we landed, I kissed the ground. I kissed the ground. And by the way, no names, but the guy that I thought was a terrorist as a leader back then that I wrote about in the OB, he was there as the big boss after the flight test to see from my company to say, so how things have really gone around. That's my point. I survived the helicopter flight, and the OB training was very good because I was able to tell Mr. How did that thing really go? We really need to fix it. This guy's pissed off. So it was a great experience. But the reason I bring that is back to the career thing. You know, there isn't this master plan. You know, you just experience as you go, and you learn and you react and you develop, and then you figure out what's cool and what's not. And then last thing, and I'll let you ask your next question, is it just needs to be not about money, in my humble opinion. It needs to be about more higher purpose and about value contribution to whatever we're doing. And for me, the career only needed to be more about leadership and contribution. So I'll leave you there.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Liela.
I think it's,
I'm good.
yeah, no, you got it. I think it's helpful that you kind of carve out that how important just your attitude and your general outlook going into it is, and putting your hand up for all of these opportunities is actually what led you to where you are now.
Kind of, yeah.
And kind of fed your purpose. Like, how would you define your purpose as is right now?
Well, that's a, whoa.
It's a toughie.
We're getting deep here about purpose. Well, first of all, when you ask me a question like that, you open up the whole Pandora's box. I mean, you know, we should all go soul searching a little bit. We are a little speck of really nothing in time when you look at the over continuum. So, you know, we have this one little purpose. I'm sure some of you are soul searching yourself. Why are we actually here? What do we do? But that aside, you know, leave the existentialism aside from a philosophy perspective. For the little itty bitty speck of time that we're here, one, take care of my family. That's a high purpose for me, my wife and my 3 kids. And then 2, contribute. And so from a work perspective, because it has to be balanced, and I'll talk about attitude because I like the word. From a work perspective, the roles that I played, one, always aspiring to be the leader of a large pack of folks trying to do good. And so that was kind of fun to direct, to inspire, to motivate, to marshal the effort for some common good. Of course, humanity doesn't do always common good, as we all see in the news right now. Most of the time, it's marshaling the effort for common bad, which is another topic for another podcast. But I would say that finding, for me, again, not about money. Money comes. And I think when we spoke once before, I told you I've never applied for a job, except for the first one that I got rejected 3 times. That's the only job. And that's why I don't want to apply for a job, because when I apply, they reject me. So never, ever asked for a job. And I'm no hero. I just got lucky. I got lucky. But you just raise your hand, you go, positive attitude. And don't just say, take a job for money. It has to be higher purpose. And I use those 3 examples. One, for me, the company that I love and spent most of my life at, Pratt & Whitney, is a fabulous company. Not only here in Canada, the mothership. I was a significant senior executive at the mothership in Connecticut. It's a fabulous, because the whole mission is to be dependable engines. It's on the logo. It's got the eagle. And it's to be dependable. And the message is that our products need to be dependable. Our people need to be dependable. And when you board that flight, as many of you seen, you saw what happened in Toronto recently, and we saw what happened in Washington. Very bad things happen from time to time. Unfortunate. But when you board that flight and you bring your grandchild, or you bring your daughter, or you bring your spouse, you want to be able to believe that the people behind it, powering this technology, have put some good thought into it. They actually care. And it's of importance to bring people to and fro safely. So from an engineering degree perspective, and if any of you read the poem, The Sons of Martha, today it should be Sons and Daughters of Martha, if we want it to be a little woke. But if you read Rudyard Kipling's poem, The Sons of Martha, there's a great explanation of the higher purpose that at least the engineering field brings to the table. I'll leave you to discover it yourself. So then Pratt had that higher purpose. And I remember my old president boss, who was my neighbor in Connecticut, always said it's about higher purpose. And he was so right. So then I went off to General Electric for a little bit. Higher purpose. The first executive offsite, I was one of 189 and non-homegrown. So I was like an enigma at GE. But when I went there, first of all, back then GE was like wild. Right? It was like GE everywhere. Right? You know, of course, there's a little bit of a fall from grace. It's recovering now, but it was unbelievable. The medical people came out, the jet engine people, of course, they hated me. I was the enemy. Now I'm inside. And then the power business. I joined Power. And just two things that came up on stage and to show you the power of a company. What the medical team was able to do in terms of their MRI scanning and their cancer research and how they were able to work it. They bring on stage the equipment that they've designed, the engineers, and then the lights go off and here comes a little girl with a mother. The mother worked at GE, the little girl. And this machine saved the little girl's life. You got the mother kind of, in tears. Higher purpose. At Power, I spent 3 years at GE Power. 40% of the world electricity at the time was powered by GE Power equipment. And they showed this little film in India where they walk like 12 miles to get home from school and then they have to do their homework before the sun goes down. A little bit of electric wiring in the cave, the light goes on. Of course, the GE light bulb. Higher purpose. And then I went off and I was fortunate enough to get thrown in to run the train business at Bombardier and then got bought by the French company Alstom, which I am employed today as the COO. And again, higher purpose, train business. At first I said, what do you want me to run the train business for? I don't know anything about trains, But then I thought, wow, it sounds sexy. It's cool. It matters. Hundreds of millions of people ride trains. We're not so spoiled here in Canada, but in Europe, when you travel on trains, it's wild. Here, it's a little bit more of a battle. And I know that the REM is causing a bit of a battle right now as we speak. It is Alstom train systems. So I was just on the phone. They're working it. So, but higher purpose because it matters. It matters for public, mobility. It matters because it's green. We're trying to promote more and more green. Don't burn diesel fuel, green. But it also matters from an engineering perspective because bad things happen when you don't pay attention to the details. And then you can get an accident, an incident, and people die. And, again, I wanted to always work in something that had higher purpose, that it actually mattered. I didn't want to just be, and I didn't want to just, go into the banking industry and just try to make money. Money is really an afterthought. It really is.
I want to dive into two things that you mentioned. So I feel like you're outlining the characteristics of a leader in terms of like care, curiosity, and having the right attitude. You mentioned how in 2021, Alstom's bought over by Bombardier.
The other way around. Alstom bought Bombardier.
When that acquisition happened in 2021, and as we're entering an era where M&As are increasing globally, like what's your stance from a leader perspective when your company is acquired?
That's a good point.
How do you lead a team?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, so this is going to bring me to Pont d'Avignon. I remember. Huh? I'm remembering. So that was not a staged question. It's ad hoc. I'm completely surprised by the question.
Totally organic.
Totally organic. Yeah. I have no idea how to answer. So here's the point. At the time, 22 months in the new role, I would say the train business that Bombardier Transportation was good business, struggling at the time. Kind of one of the reasons why I was moved in to try to support and help. Let's just leave it at that since it's going public. You can all read the newspapers. Here, we're in the middle of COVID, just hitting. A bit of financial distress. You can read the newspapers at Bombardier. And here comes a suitor from Paris that throws their hat in the ring to says, we're going to buy it. So it's like mass pandemonium. So your point, 34,900, 35,000 people. Little old me at the top. Stressed like a bit crazy. Don't show it though. The old duck thing. You paddle and I was freaking out on it. And then, okay, no problem. We can do it. So you do have to suck it up a little bit and figure out, okay, what's important? How do I protect what is this very good? I'm using the word good carefully. You know, the old book, Good to Great, there's the journey. So we're good. We were good, not great. Aspire to be great. So how do we now maintain, you know, customers, employees, don't bail out, stay with here comes the French company buying, which would make us the number one train company in the world, which we are today. And then having that approach on how do I keep the stuff together? How do I show that when we cross to the other side, here comes the bridge, when we cross the other side, don't worry, the acquirer actually wants to do good. And they would like us to mold together and be 1 + 1 might not exactly equal to, 1 + 1 might be equal to 1.95, but for the remainder of the population, it's a very bright future. So hold on, everybody. We're going for the ride. Buckle up. We're going for the ride. I would say it was tumultuous because you had many different factors going on, and then a very late breaking couple nights to try to actually close a deal or not, where people were not certain. People weren't sure if their jobs were going to be secured. So on I think it was February the 1st, 2021, I went to Paris. I'm quite short compared to my boss, the CEO, Henri Poupard-Lafarge, very tall. And we demonstrated the co-leadership together, that I wouldn't get fired and dismissed just because I'm not a good guy. Just, you know, you're the company we bought, out you go. And that was the bet. The company that you bought, out you go. It didn't happen. And it still hasn't happened. It could happen, but it hasn't happened. I guess they don't want me to go for whatever reasons. But we made a pact that, you know, we would cross. That was my speech to at the time, 80,000 people, that as being the acquirer, that we're honored, we're privileged. And then my commitment to the legacy Bombardier transportation people is that we've got your back. It's not going to be a Pont d'Avignon. We're going to make it to the other side. And I will stay as long as we can go to the other side. And then when my job is up, no emotions. You can show me the door and I'll go on to the next journey. The door hasn't opened yet, but maybe one day it will. But that's kind of the commitment we made. And I guess I'm kind of proud about, you know, it's been ups and downs and that, but we are the number one train company in the world. And to merge 35,000 people entities all over the world, we've got trains in every corner and nook and cranny in the world. It's kind of cool. So I would say people are happy that we were able to pull it together. Of course, some restructuring happened, but not to the extent that people thought. So I would say an overall positive experience.
And you talked a little bit about like future of rail, like in EU, they're reducing the amount of flights within certain countries to promote rail. There's whispers of a bullet train here in Canada. Like, what's your view on tiny whispers?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of cool. If we just delve, and we'll go back to education afterwards, but if we just delve one more time on rail, if you guys are a bit interested in
There's
the
some
rail.
engineers here.
There's some engineers here. Okay, very good. Okay, we don't have to all be. But by the way, I just gave shit to somebody yesterday who is an employee of Alstom's in the St. Bruno area. And she is asking me to mentor her and do this and that. I hope she's listening. I don't know if she will be.
We'll send it to her.
Okay, yeah, send it to her. I'll give you the name afterwards. Yeah. God damn. But she said she's an engineer. And right away, she got her engineering degree here in Quebec. And I said, okay, well, show me the iron ring from the Sons of Martha. Sons of who? What? And then, where's your ring? I left it in Lebanon. You left it in Lebanon? You're not proud to be? Anyway, I digress. But are there any engineers in the room? And what do you have over here, my friend? Good job. See?
Nice.
See? Very good.
For those listening to the podcast, someone has raised their hand.
Yeah, someone raised their iron ring that they got at the pharmacy or the 7-Eleven. And as my brother-in-law used to say, yeah, we could get that in a Cracker Jack box. Doesn't say anything about your brains.
I appreciate jewelry, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure it's jewelry, but it's good enough. So we digressed. Railway. I would say it's wild in Europe. It's really, really cool. Like, I don't know if you guys travel, but, you know, when I bring the wife and the kids, I keep saying, you know, no, we're not renting a car. No, we're not flying. We're going to take the train. It's pretty cool. Great connectivity, great comfort, very safe. It's really a cool experience. I go London to Paris all the time because I live in London, and I go under the Channel all the time with the train. It's very cool. But I would say that if you look at overall carbon footprint, by far, even though I'm an aerospace geek, by far, railway from a mode of transportation is by far the lowest emitting by percentages, by significant percentages. So moving and shifting to rail more and more to using electrification, especially here in the province of Quebec, when the water flows and the electrons flow with it free of charge ish. And so I think it's a great opportunity to for green mobility, to use God's given natural ability to electrify, but it costs an enormous amount of money. And that's why the continental US is really, you can't take a train easily coast to coast. Whereas in Japan and in China, they've invested a very small, China's massive, but Japan is very small, but they zip up and down that island in 300 kilometers an hour high-speed trains. The day is going to come, I guess. Look, we're still arguing about Montreal to Toronto as a corridor, which has got a lot of people. Air Canada has a flight every 50 minutes, every hour, right? So I'm sure the airlines would like to keep, but that's a perfect natural connecting city pairs with mass amounts of people that could actually benefit from green mobility, high-speed trains, very regular frequency and comfort in and out of the city centers, and then on you go, which is the way Europe kind of does it. So I'd say the challenges are going to be the infrastructure. The Trump administration is kind of not so keen on green right now, so that's being polite. So there's a whole shift in the United States right now, come out of the Paris Accord. So the world, the greenish part of Kermit the Frog has got a frown on his face right now. So I would say that that's going to be a bit of an impediment for investing in battery power, hydrogen fuel cell powered, and infrastructure support from government for what costs billions of dollars to electrify. And the reason I say electrify with the catenary system is that's where the electricity comes from. If the electricity is green and you're not burning coal, like some countries are doing to produce the electricity, that's not so good. But there's a push for battery, there's a push for hydrogen. That could help, but the technology is not there. The business case is not there. So we need new MBA and engineering students to help us figure out the world, which is where you have your higher purpose so that we can arrest this climate situation, put technology to good use, move people around safely. That could be a higher purpose. It is a higher purpose.
And on that topic, what would be one piece of advice you have for the graduating MBA classes?
So are some of you graduating MBAers? You're nodding your head like you're not. I'm not really going to graduate. I actually didn't do well on the midterm. So is that what you're trying to say? No.
No, everyone ranges from you can do a year program, year and a half, or 2 years.
Okay.
So it depends on when you're.
Yeah.
For me, hopefully December, but I need to pass the course.
I'm sure. Are you studying?
Yes.
Do you have good counterparts and team members to help you?
Of course.
This is like the MBA group here, right?
Yes.
And you're doing it full time or part time?
Full time.
Full time. How do you like the full time? I know we're not in Q&A mode, but
we're getting there. Yeah.
It's okay. Don't worry. Speak loud.
I like it.
You like it?
Great. Yeah, it's a full, in-depth experience. I was also partially using it to get away from my previous employment shift. So
okay.
Not as applicable as maybe your situation as well, but I can see the benefits in terms of being able to apply the coursework directly. Yeah.
And by the way, there's no one shirt fits all. I mean, so what? I think it's a good idea. I really do think so. I'm going to give you I'm going to answer your question. We digressed again, but it's my new friend there.
What's his name?
Hold on. Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Liela, don't give me that attitude. That's the other side of attitude. So no, I would say to you that my personal advice we're a very small, intimate, cozy fireside chat.
As we planned.
Yeah, there should have been 10,000 people here, but they're not all here. We'll blame it on the Montreal storm.
Yes.
What I would say is the following. Number one, it's a privilege for you. You should consider it a privilege for you to be educated in this institution. Period. Point final. Check your attitude anytime you're struggling. Oh, I don't want to. Check it out of the way. You are living in a period of time which has got turmoil all over the world. Me too. I'm privileged now. I was privileged then. You are privileged to be educated in a safe, great institution in a great city It's a privilege. That's message number one to the don't take it for granted. I travel a lot around the world. I see lots of different things. Of course, I don't go to all of the very challenging and tough places in the world. There's others that do that. But we are the privileged small percent few. So take it as a real, great period of time. You will look back. There's plenty of time to work. There's plenty of time to bitch and moan. There's plenty of time to try to make money. This is a wonderful opportunity to learn. And learn you should do. So, and this is, of course, a speech I've been giving to the kids. Throw yourself into it, get yourself educated, study as hard as you possibly can, and have fun learning and doing. And it's not BS what you're learning. It's very applicable. Somehow, some way, everything that you're learning, myself, all the formulas, it's like that movie, A Beautiful Mind. Remember A Beautiful Mind? You guys are all too young. You don't even know that. Russell Crowe, A Beautiful Mind. Yeah. It's about that professor from Penn State, I think. No, it's fabulous. You guys, okay, A Beautiful Mind. If you see The Beautiful Mind now, you all have to go watch. You guys have to read a poem. Mm-hmm. You guys have to watch a movie. You got some homework to do. But when you see The Beautiful Mind, everything comes to his mind. And it's like that, is that everything you're learning does get stored. We have incredible memory capability. So when you're out after, and you're in the day-to-day battle of work or whatever you're doing, it'll all come back to you. And you'll apply the nips and bits, put them all together. And it'll make it, for me, it makes sense. And I always relish my education. I didn't think I enjoyed it enough as I should have. I did have a good attitude about it. But if I look back today, and I will go back to school, I'm going to end this thing very soon, and I'll go back to school. It's a great privilege you have. So that's number one. Number two, don't chase after money. Don't chase after money. Bad move. Chase after experience. Pack your bags. It's a metaphor. And put in your suitcase every little chunk of knowledge and experience along the way. And some of the roles you'll do are probably going to be crappy. And I remember being sent to the test cell by Jim Jarvo. Jim, I hope you're listening. He's still there. I couldn't believe it. He's been there for 40 years. I went to the test cell and they were just trying to shoo me into, and they gave me a paper. Like in those days, it wasn't a very electronic, 1989. Paper like this, and I had to go and look at lines of speeds and pressures and temperatures, find an anomaly. I think it was like just get rid of him, send him to the test cell to waste his time. So I remember sitting there saying, what am I doing? It's not what I studied for. Mm-hmm. I learned all of Bernoulli's equations. What the shit is this? I'm looking at a black line of piece of paper. Suck it up. That's why I raised my hand to get down to Florida. But it's true. It's a true statement. I told him I'm out of here. But it's like a brick in the wall. Every brick is building that wall in a good way, not like Roger Waters is thinking. You're building that knowledge base. You're learning that experience. You're interacting with other people. You're learning how you can contribute. And then the third thing is attitude. So here, I was a B+ student at best in engineering. I think I did a bit better here in McGill. Whatever. But so my only warning is you don't need to be the 4.00. Do you work on a 4.0 or 4.3 here? 4.0. So my graduating buddy, John Manarino, 4.0, graduated engineering. 3.999. Me, no, 3.3, 3.27, whatever it was. He's a genius, and he's fabulous, and he's here. He has a company here in Montreal. Absolute genius. Of course, he was my study buddy. That's how I actually tried to graduate. But the message is, I think if John was sitting here today, it doesn't matter. Of course, if you get a 1.2, it's going to raise some eyebrows when you're in the pile, because that's the way it gets sorted, right? So number one message is you need to do well, but don't sweat the small things. You don't need to get the 4.0. Who cares? You need to learn. You need to be able to articulate. By the way, I've interviewed the 4.0s from Harvard and from MIT. Whoa. I mean, personality of a rock. So you need a balance. You need to be able to apply what you've learned. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to, if you're going to be a leader, you need to be able to inspire. You need to be able to communicate with people. And you need to not be the smart ass in the room all the time. So you need that balance of smarts, but more inquisitive, more really interested in learning, and engaging with other people. Because, that's one of the problems today with all these games and, the COVID taught us how to do everything from behind a two-dimensional screen. We've lost the plot. I mean, it doesn't get done by, back of a screen. It gets done by mobilizing other people together to do good things. And then the last thing is attitude. It's not all going to, in the work life, and everybody has a different personal life. I stay away from that. But in the work balance, it's not always going to be rosy. There's going to be some days where I think this theory says 88 or 90% of your personal stress comes from your immediate direct supervisor. It's an unbelievable thing. You would think it's the environment. You would think it's the groups you're with. No. The majority of your personal stress in a day comes from your direct boss. It's not all going to roll well day in, day out, but just suck it up, see the bigger picture, and it's all, like the yellow brick road. It's all just another step in the journey, so they put it all into perspective. And I don't think you guys would be that, but I've seen people that graduate with their big diplomas and these fancy schools, and they think they walk on water. Well, you know what? Check your attitude at the door. Check your ego at the door. Let's begin and play.
I mean, thank you so much for your time. I think that it really does relate back to so much of what we're learning as well. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us.
Good luck to you all. Hope you graduate and do very well.
We hope so too. Thank you, Danny.